but we. You know, the fire department for one is very impressed with what we're doing and the quality speakers we have and everything. So I'm really not discouraged, I'm enthused, but help us, you know, you can call the CRTF number, it's on our business card, it's on our website, it's on our brochures. And it's a daisy chain, you know, we kind of get first. I don't know what order, but we answer the calls. Let us know how we can help and help us spread the word. That's a big ask, but not a difficult.
Yeah, we need you bring the pen with me.
Just one. Ready, Mr. Leroy? Leroy, one of the yourselves, maybe yours. And I'll start with myself because otherwise I forget it. Newsweek. And I've been in the class and I've been involved with CRTF since the beginning. And why? Well, because you know, I own and manage a hotel. Yeah. And then Rita Katrina happened. And I did my thing. Then I was approached by basically saying, so you do your thing, you need to do something with that. That's not real kid. I mean, if I didn't know I was an American, then I would be Phillips. I am me. And so anyway, we decided right there in Hanover Pizza that I would host at the hotel since I had a room, a meeting. And there was standing room. It was really something else. We met every month. And I was basically serving coffee. But when time came where the board formed, we had to put our name in a hat. And I got picked. You know, he who never wins anything. Yeah. So it talked. It is really a magnifying thing. It's not helping one person at a time. We can help thousands. Would never know what we're doing. So anyway, that's me. Laura is vice president. Paul Fenley, secretary. Lynn Chi, treasurer. Member at large. Alice Weckett. And Cheryl, thank you for coming. Cheryl served on the board, kept me going for a lot of years. Anyway, I had to resign because of the job situation. So I'll let you guys introduce your son.
Well, I'm a volunteer with the fire department here, and they maintain an emergency operations center. And we have set up the amateur radio communications capability that will give us, in case everything else goes to hell, pardon my language, but we will still have direct communication. And we have facilities that will allow us to have direct communication throughout the city of Houston. We're very fortunate to have that capability. And this will be through amateur radio operators. We have two other amateur radio operators here that I'll speak for themselves, but that's one of the things that we try to do to make sure that there is capability in case everything else goes haywire. And so the fire department has been very supportive of that activity.
You've been involved with CRTF for forever, so thank you.
Off and on, yes.
Yeah, well, we would go on looking at that. John.
John Igo, Tuscaloosa Fire Department, radio room. Once a month, I'm in the radio room to check out the radios, make sure they operate properly. I was there last night for about 3 or 4 hours. We have the capability of going beyond the city of Houston and hitting the entire state with the radios we have. We also are speaking of now expanding our emergency communications ability throughout the city of Kingwood, Humble, Hoffman, by going to fire marshal's office, going to hospitals. In the past, we were at some of these facilities already. If roads are cut off due to rain or whatever, we may have to postpone going to one of our EOCs and only use the other ones. Therefore, you want multiple locations. We're in the process of doing that now. And of course, I volunteered with 5 Buck, which has been really good to me.
Thank you very much.
Welcome. Sir,
So how would you find out what frequency on the radio you would communicate on during an emergency? Is it just out there or?
That, those frequencies are published, they are used and exercised on a regular basis.
Yeah, but besides someone else that's not exercising on it.
you need a license to speak, licensed by the FCC, to speak on amateur radio, ham radio. You can speak on other frequencies which are well established without licenses. We all have licenses. There's 3 licenses in this room right now.
License.
4.
Life.
Oh, you guys are right.
I just wanted to know, okay.
Sorry.
So you go to AARP or something like,
You can do that, ARI, yep. We program frequencies into our radios with an established name. Huffman, Kingwood, Hospital Net, whatever. We can, at a prescribed hour, get on those nets when it's not an emergency. When it's an emergency, we monitor those frequencies. We have multiple radios in the EOC. At home, I have 5 radios. In the EOC, we have 3 radios. There's the ability to speak to many, many people. At the county EOC downtown, there are 5 or 6 radio stations. I know that because I attempted to monitor all 5 at one time over the evening hours. That's almost impossible. To have 5 people speaking.
5 different frequencies.
So yes, they're established frequencies. You set up times to practice, and then during an emergency, what we're presently doing is setting up 2-3 days prior to an emergency, to a hurricane. Starting at, every 3 or 4 hours, getting on the airwaves, just to determine what's going on in your area. As the hurricane comes closer, that is, that cone is getting smaller, we may increase that to every 2 hours, we would be on the radio. We would establish a net control. Usually that's me at the EOC. People would call into me and say, a tree is falling. I see a tornado. The next obvious question to I see a tornado is there any debris in the air? Is anything being picked up from the ground? Is it heading towards you? If it's heading towards you, cover your head. That's the kind of things we do all the time. Practice, practice, practice.
Yeah, I know. I don't get on the radio and do my part. I just sit there and listen.
Yep.
Then when I get ready to talk, no one hears me.
Usually that's because the tone programmed into your radio is improper. An example of which, I was trying to get on the Texas traffic net 2 weeks ago. It was on 146.660. I had the incorrect tone in the radio at the EOC. I could hear them perfectly, but they could not hear me. The tone opens the net connection or the relay connection such that they could hear me. That has since last night been corrected. So it's a tone that could be improperly programmed in your radio. Check that out first. Okay,
So our last guest.
My name's Karen Capriani. I'm a student at HBU. It's now Houston Christian University. I don't know if you get that. But I'm going back to get a clinical mental health counseling degree, and I'm in a crisis trauma course. Just got on the internet. This seems to be,
You've been communicating.
yeah,
It's all good.
it's nice.
we can use you.
And we were responsive, right?
Say again,
We were responsive.
very, very.
They contact us. Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Cheryl Biden. I'm retired, but I do school safety and security consulting. I'm a certified emergency manager. Been a part of community response task force for some time, and always glad to have an opportunity to be.
We're always happy to have. All right, thank you so much for being here. Mr. Leroy is our program for today.
Oh,
talking about hurricane preparedness.
Yep.
We've got our speakers, by the way, lined up for the following, for the next 6 months. Just wrapping all of that up, and that's what we'll do is post them 6 months out, so it gives you all a perspective of what's coming. Anyway.
Please be sure. to use that. Yes.
Yeah. I usually don't do. Yeah. The live video. It's on, it's showing up. What we're doing is recording,
Yeah.
then we're gonna post it on our.
It's not my, it's not super clear, but
It's gonna
yeah,
change.
but it's really helpful.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Leroy Harrison. My involvement in emergency preparedness, has been over the reign of 20 years. I was the director of plant ops at, Encompass Health, which is the hospital. I was their EPO officer, security officer, safety officer, hazardous materials officer. I was everything. But anyway, we're here to talk today about hurricane. I call it hurricane, but I think it's pronounced hurricane. I've always said hurricane, but it's hurricane. Of course, last week was hurricane preparedness week. So the hurricane season is from June the 1st to November the 30th. So we've got a lot of stuff to talk about. Okay, now, Cheetah, she's the lady on, channel 11. I got some information here about named storms. There's gonna be 13 named storms this year. Last year, there was 14. Hurricanes, possible 6. In 2022, there was 8. Major hurricanes this year should be 2, but of course, major hurricanes in 2022 was 2. So that's what I think the national NOAA has come up with, not Cheetah, but she just gave me the information. Next, we're going to talk about the types of categories. There's 5 types of categories for a hurricane, and there's 2 types for tropical storms. First, we start out with a tropical depression, which is identified from 0 to 38 miles per hour. Next, we have a tropical storm. That is from 39 to 73 miles per hour. And then after that, we get into the categories. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Category 1 is 74 to 95 miles per hour. That's a category 1. And of course, 2 is from 95 to 110. And then category 3 is 111 to 129. I remember the category 3 because at the hospital, our windows were rated for a category 3 hurricane or hurricane. And then of course, 4 is 130 to 156. And then we get to the big one, which is 5, which is 157 on up. And these are all in the Atlantic. Now you get into the Pacific, they're called something else. They're called typhoons, and they really get destructive. Here are some important numbers that we should remember. 211. That's a number that we should remember. It's for shelter, food, and disaster services. And then we have a 711, which is Relay Texas Services. I've never heard of that. But 711 is Relay Texas Services. So is there anybody out there that knows what that is? And then, of course, when we get into the doc, which is the 1-800 number, 1-800-452-9292 is for the Texas doc statewide road closures. So if you want to find out if your road is closed or there's any roads closed out there, you call this number. And here's another one, a 1-800-552-9292. 525-5555 road assistance. Hopefully no one would be out during that time of the hurricane. Now we're gonna get into trying to prepare ourselves for a storm. Of course, we've already know the categories and we have plenty of time to get ready for the event. So the next is we need to prepare. So there's a bunch of things we've got to do. First, water. Now they're saying 7 day supply, used to be 3. Where this time goes on, you know, it gets more technical and more technical. Food and water supply for 7 days, 1 gallon of water per person per day. And you need to replace that water if you stored it at least every 3 months. 5 to 7 days of supply of non-perishable foods for each family member. And canned goods. So if you're gonna have canned goods out there, how are you gonna open this thing if you have no electricity? So you're gonna need a can opener. Make sure you have a can opener. Or if you want to do it the old military way, just get a knife and open it up with a knife. You know, you've got to make sure that you have food and water for at least 7 days, non-perishable foods. Peanut butter is a good nourishment. You get a jar of peanut butter and some bread. The bread goes bad, you just need a spoonful of peanut butter. Helps the medicine go down. Let's see. Talks again about a manual. Oh, make sure that the can opener is manual. If you get an electric one, it might not want to work unless you have a generator. And then again, we're talking about generators. If you do have a generator and you are using a gas generator, make sure that bad boy is outside. Don't put it inside because it can kind of be hazardous for your health because of the carbon monoxide. And that's really a bad thing. A lot of people, they die because of it. Camp stove with fuel or other non-electric cooking device. Barbecue pits. I think one year, I had a barbecue pit. I took all my meat on my barbecue pit and gave it to my neighbors. You know, because I didn't have any electricity. I didn't have a generator. I'm just one of them people that's the old fashioned and you just rough it out. Now there's also some things you can do about flushing water. You don't have any electricity. Well, most of the time the water is usually working during a disaster. I've noticed 99% of the time, you have water, but it might not be potable. So you can flush the toilet with it. If you're gonna eat, and try to make sure you have a paper or plastic utensils. That's a good idea. Okay, as far as food, that should about cover it for food. Of course, there's many things you can do with food. Every individual has their own way of doing their own food calculation, but just make sure that you have enough food to last at least 7 days. Communication needs. Okay, I think we had talked about this radio. Can you hear me down there?
Yeah.
A radio, purchasing a radio that will come up with NOAA weather radio. Make sure you have one of them. Or just a regular radio. A lot of radio stations there, one right there. And you can purchase that online. Just make sure you have enough batteries for your radios or your telephone or your cell phone. Just make sure, or even a hand crank radio. This radio cranks. He's got a crank on his radio. Make sure you have extra batteries. Communication needs, copy of your family disaster plan. Every family should have a disaster plan. Each individual plan is gonna be different. But make sure you have a plan and important phone numbers and important documents. Documents, birth certificates, and you can put them in a plastic bag, you can put them in a plastic container, just anywhere that you can contain them in a safe and dry place. Mobile phones, of course, your extra batteries for your phone. And it said the charger, but you can charge your phone by your vehicle. If you have enough gas in your vehicle. Now we're talking about vehicles. You need to make sure that you fill that vehicle up before the actual date of the incident. Prepaid phone cards, that's up to you. If you want to get a prepaid phone card, you can, but I've got my own cell phone. It says here a whistle or signal for help or a light stick. Well, that could be possible at night if you lose light and something falls on your house and y'all are in the house, you need some kind of a light stick or a whistle to notify people around you that you're in the devastated area. Basic needs, first aid kit. Everybody should have a first aid kit, which the first aid kit should have at least the basic stuff in it, but everybody's different. Some people want Band-Aids, some people want wraps, alcohol, everybody's different. I use monkey blood or mercurochrome. I think that cures everything, but it seems to help me. And then again, they're talking about having a flashlight in your first aid kit. That'll help. That's an extra light. You know, our lights went off 2 days ago when the storm came through, and I had many flashlights, and I just stuck them up in there. And we had lights just like nothing had ever happened. We just didn't have any TE, but it was only off for a couple of hours, but we did survive. So extra flashlights, not necessarily a flashlight, but a flashlight that will light up your living room. There's a bunch of items like that out there that you stick on the wall, you stick them on the wall. When you walk by, they light up. When it's dark, they light up. Candles. I even started a candle in my house. Of course, it smelled good, but I had to open the window because I didn't like the smell. But as soon as I lit the candle, the lights came on. So I got to remember that trick again. Carry waterproof matches or hide some matches someplace in case you need to start a fire. Barbecue pit. Of course, I have an igniter on mine, but it's nice to have some kind of waterproof matches. Everybody carries around a big now. I've got a big, so that'll work. Know where your fire extinguishers are in case the house catches on fire. And of course, if you have a fire extinguisher, you can check it monthly. Make sure that the gauge on it reads good, because they will lose their pressure over time. So that's a monthly check. And then annually, you should have it checked by a fire extinguisher authority. Mask. You might want to have a mask around in case there's a lot of dust. I don't know. If there's a hurricane, there should be much dust. Work gloves. That's something good to have. Work gloves in case you need to pick up debris. I wear work gloves when I'm on grass. Work gloves is good to have. Sanitation supplies, toilet paper. Yes, definitely need some of that. Towelettes. Man, this list goes on and on. Duct tape. You might want to think about having duct tape to tape up your windows. Or put boards on it. I'll put boards on mine. I have pre-cut boards that I've had since, oh shoot, I think Alicia. They fit my window and I just stick them in there and put a screw in there and I'm good to go. But some people don't think about that. So the next step is duct tape. Just get some duct tape and tape your windows up. Plastic sheeting, whatever. You might wanna keep around some tools just in case you need to work on something. Of course, I always have tools I was the director of Plan Op and, you know, I'm a master of none. Local maps, might want to keep a map, but since we have Google, that is our map. But what if the internet goes off? You still might want to, the internet and the phones, because I was talking earlier about calling this 800 number. Well, what if the phones are down? But I think, I've got another way to call, because I've got a number that goes through SatTrack. It's a different kind of a number. I've got it in my phone. I've never used it. I always would like to test stuff before the actual emergency. I guess I need to test it. Clothing, you might want to have a couple of chains of clothing. That would be a good idea instead of wearing your clothing for a week or whatever. And if you're in your house, you have clothing. But if you have to leave, then all this stuff needs to be packed up and put in your vehicle so you can leave. Blankets, sleeping bag, extra set of keys to your car. I've never thought about that. I've got two sets, but one stays in my drawer, the other one's in my pocket. Cash and carry it, the credit cards might not work. Make sure you've got some available cash on you. How much is up to you, that's your discretion. Says to last for 1 to 2 weeks, that'd be a couple $1,000. Plastic garbage bags, of course, if you're at your house, you have a plastic garbage bag, pick up debris. To clean, bleach. Might need some bleach. How to disinfect. Just be careful because it will stain your clothes. And the rule of thumb is to kill a germ, it's 10 to 1. A lot of the olden days, I used to go out there and pour the bleach on it, and say, man, that's gonna kill it. It didn't kill it, it just changed the pigment. Changed the pigment from black to white, but it didn't kill it. I guess it was just too strong, but the rule of thumb is 10 to 1 to mix your bleach.
Bleach to water. 10 to 1.
10 to 1. And there's supplies for your vehicle. We talked about earlier about definitely filling your vehicle up. Maybe getting an extra 5 gallons of gas. This is before the fact. This would be before 36 hours, because usually it starts about 48 hours, then 36, and then the closer it gets, people start cramming their stuff and heading to the stores. That's a little bit too late. Fuel for your vehicles and generators. You have a generator? Yes, definitely. Carry some of that fuel for your generator. The people that have the generators in their house, they're more than fortunate ones. Here's some special needs. Now we're talking about children. Make sure that your infant has formula, baby food, diapers, and their supplies. We can't forget about the babies. They're a part of the stew. And then as older people that take medications, you gotta remember your prescriptions. Make sure you have enough to last for a week or two. Definitely. Don't wait till the last minute to call CRTF to go get you some prescriptions, because all the stores are probably gonna be closed anyway because of no electricity. Prescription medications such as glucose or blood pressure monitoring devices. Well, there's a lot of them out there that are battery operated. So if you have one of them, you probably want to make sure you have an extra battery for your machines. Eyeglasses, contacts, and other stuff like that. Make sure that you have an extra set of glasses. And I do, I've got glasses from 10 years ago that I still use. Now we're talking about our pets. Let's not forget our little pets. Of course, they're gonna need 7 days supply of food also, and water. So they're gonna be one of them that are on the list at the very beginning for food and water. And of course, you need a leash and a collar and an identification. A date of the rabies vaccination. Usually that is on their tag. And immunization records and prescription medications for them if they're needed. There's a lot of animals, they're just like humans. They gotta have their stuff too. You need maybe a pet carrier case, in case you need to move your animal, your pet. A photo of you and your pet together in case of separation. And that's a good idea. You should have a family photo. That should be also incorporated into your supplies. That's a good idea. First aid, of course, that's gonna be up to you. You can have the basics. Rubbing alcohol, antibiotic ointments, hydrocortisone cream. I use that in my ears. So I've got that. Adhesive bandages of any sorts and size. Eye wash solution. That's something good to have in case something blows in your eye. Pain relievers, aspirin for the adults, for the children, and the pets. Sterile dressings, in case you get a opening in your body that needs to be, you hope you won't. A thermometer, non-mercury, because I don't even think they make mercuries anymore. A non-mercury, non-glass. I think now they come up with a piece of paper that you can stick on something and it gives you the temperature. Insect repellent. Because right after a hurricane, it gets hot, humid, and I guess the mosquitoes will start coming out. So have some of that on hand. Hygiene products such as soap. That should have been up there at the other one. Soap to take a bath in that water that you can't drink, but you can take a bath. And toothpaste. So that's where I guess part of that gallon of water will come in handy to brush your teeth. It says tweezer, I guess, in case you get a splinter in your body or something. Petroleum jelly or other lubricants, and medical gloves. There are so many things out there that you could do for your kid. You might want carry your living will, all your papers for your insurance in a container, along with power of attorney, just general stuff. Make sure that you have all your debit cards together, credit cards, social security cards, birth certificates. I mean, the list goes on. Driver's license. You gotta pack up the whole house and put it in a box. Passports. I've got my passport, but it stays in a lockbox. Military records, if you're military. Vaccination records. Mine are online, but I also have 2 or 3 copies of paper of my vaccinations. And they're good to have. Insurance card and policies. So before a hurricane, if it's more than 30 days out, you might want to get or think about getting flood insurance because it doesn't go into effect for at least 30 days. That's if you're in the flood zone. A lot of people think that just because you're not in a flood zone, you won't get flooded. That's not true. You should have a home inventory list. Of course, that should be for your insurance anyway. You should already have that available. Like, your TVs, your jewelry, all that should all be on a piece of paper, hidden somewhere or put on a thumb drive or something. So when something happens, you have proof that, yes, I did have that. Of course, your will, this is medical devices. Well, if you need a medical device, you're definitely gonna have it with you. That's for sure. Then again, it's talking about pet information, their vaccinations. And then all your user passwords, your username and passwords to everything. I've got mine in a little book, so that book needs to go with me. But if I'm on my phone, I can't do anything on my phone because I don't have my passwords. And then proof of address for your billing, for your utility bills. Lights, gas, water. I get them just information to identify you. And there's so many other things that we can do in order to get prepared for a disaster. And that's not just a hurricane, that's for almost any other kind of disaster. Of course, it gets into a little bit different. But that's about. I'm kind of like Forrest Gump. That's it. Y'all want to have any questions? I just hope it's been very informative. For the list goes on and on and on. There's no, it changes every time we have a hurricane or disaster. Something gets added, something gets taken off, more things get added than taken off. All right, so I'm gonna give you the mic to finish. Thank you guys for listening.
Thank you. You got me on board, it was understandable. What do you mind? I took a lot of notes, I hope you got something from it as well. I
It, I mean, I've been researching this for a week and once you just start talking, it's kind of like, yeah. It is, I mean, we do this every year, so. That's the bottom line is we just have to keep doing it, keep doing it, keep doing it.
Make it a part of our thinking, because we live in a very vulnerable area, and, you know, we seem to always talk about hurricanes, you know? But really, we've got trains going through our community, where we don't even want to know what's in it. Heaven forbid they derail, airplanes flying over our community. The port is not very far. I mean, we can just go on and on, but we're very low. So we cannot be prepared enough. And then there's, you know, the COVIDs of the world, and it's gonna happen again. You know, cyber attacks, they're gonna happen. And, so it's all true. We need to get, you know, back to the basics. It was a great Leroy. So understandable. I mean, we made a lot of notes. So thank you very much. Is there anything old business anybody wants to bring up at this point? All right, well, I make a motion that we adjourn.
I make a motion, we adjourn.
Make a motion, I'll second it. All right, but anyway, second Friday of every month, same location. We do one. And help us find it.
We need brochures.
Oh, they're in the car. Before you leave. What kind of brochure? COTN.
Oh, yeah, it's insurance.
Go ahead.
Yes.
Yep. All right. Is the webpage address on there?
I think we're gonna do the survey.